All right, let's take a look at the Unit 1.1 review worksheet. I'm going to remind you that you get to use this little handy dandy circle chart, D, M, V. D stands for density. That's how much mass is packed into a certain amount of space. The M is mass, and the V is volume. And there's a division sign between the M and the D, a division sign between the M and the V, and a multiplication sign between the D and the V. You cover up what you want. So for the first question, it says you have a metal that has a volume of 15 and a mass of 135 grams. What is the density? If we want density, we need to do mass divided by volume. If I covered up that D on that circle chart, that's what I would see. Mass divided by volume. So the mass is 135 grams. The volume is 15 milliliters, it tells me. So I get 9 grams per milliliter. The only metal that has that amount of mass packed into a milliliter is copper. Number 2, what is the volume of a piece of gold that weighs 20 grams? Well, for every 19.3 grams of gold, it takes up 1 milliliter of space. So since I have a little bit more than 19.3 grams, I'm going to take up a little bit more than 1 milliliter. So in my calculator, I'm going to do, in order to calculate volume, you need to do mass divided by density. Again, I get that if I cover up the V, what's left is M divided by D. So that's 20 grams divided by the density for gold, 19.3 grams per milliliter. And just for the record, grams cancels out and I've got 1 over milliliters, which means milliliters flips to the top. And 20 divided by 19 is about 1 milliliter. So I'm going to round to 1. How about number 3? What if I want to know mass? If I go back to my circle chart and cover up the M, I'm left with density times volume. So what is the density of zinc? For this problem, it's asking me about that, and it's 7.1 grams per milliliter, and I want to know how much 150 milliliters of zinc weighs. Well, 1 milliliter weighs 7.1 grams, so 150 milliliters, I'm going to have to multiply here. My milliliters cancel out, and I get 1,065 grams. That's how much that zinc would weigh. Number 4, archaeologists discover a crown they think is gold. So it says they put it in some water, the volume changed by 528 milliliters, the mass was 4,500. Is the crown made of gold? Well, let's figure out what the density was. Mass divided by volume, 4,500 grams divided by 528 milliliters. That comes out to be 8.5 grams per milliliter. So if we look at my chart, does that match the density of gold? No. Gold is 19.3 grams per milliliter. This is pretty close to brass. So brass is also a golden color, so it's definitely not gold because gold's density is 19.3 grams per milliliter. All right, a piece of copper wire and a 50-pound brick of copper both have the same density. In your own words, explain how this could be true. Okay, so if I've got a big 50-pound brick of copper, the atoms are still going to be packed in the same way as they are in the piece of copper wire. There's still going to be the same amount of mass per volume. So maybe this big brick is 900 grams and it is 100 milliliters. but the density there is 9 grams per milliliter. And maybe this tiny little wire is 9 grams, but it's only 1 milliliter for its volume. So it's still the same grams per milliliter. The atoms are packed in the same way. Every single thing made of copper will have the same density. What is the definition of matter? Matter has mass and takes up space. Name 2 things that are not matter and explain why. So I'm thinking back to that list of the homework. Fear and light don't have mass or volume. What are 2 things that are matter? Air and atoms. They have mass and take up space. They have mass and volume. Number 9, describe the purpose of the shower in the classroom. Under what circumstance should it be used? If you spill a dangerous chemical on yourself. And the most likely person this would happen to is me, because I'm always taking concentrated chemicals and diluting them so they're safer for you to use. When should you wear goggles? When working with anything potentially dangerous to your eyes. What should you do if you break a piece of glass in this lab? Use a broom and dustpan to sweep it up. And put in special broken glass container. I'm running out of space. Identify the following pieces of equipment. This is a beaker, and this one over here kind of looks like a test tube, but it's a scupula. It's supposed to be a scupula. So there you go. Good luck studying.